Welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Tuesday, August 19th, the 231st day of 2025, and National Aviation Day, founded in 1939 by President Franklin D. Roosevelt to celebrate aviation's impact on the world and commemorate the birthday of Orville Wright, who, along with his brother Wilbur, accomplished the first successful flight on a beach in North Carolina, now known as the first in-flight state. Today, people on the outer banks of the first in-flight state are evacuating ahead of Hurricane Erin, which isn't expected to make landfall, but is creating very dangerous storm surge along the East Coast and is going to make its closest pass to land near North Carolina tomorrow night. And it could bring 12-foot waves up the East Coast to the Jersey Shore, Long Island, and Cape Cod on Thursday. So if you're in any of those areas, if you're anywhere along the East Coast, be smart, be prepared. In Washington, President Trump is now working to organize a face-to-face trilateral meeting between President Zelensky, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and with him there as well.
I think there will be a reasonable chance of ending the war when we do that.
Still not sounding as confident as he did on the campaign trail, but he is certainly working on it. The president said he spoke with Vladimir Putin immediately after the meeting with Zelensky and several European leaders at the White House, where the Ukrainian president finally showed up in a suit and had a different tone than the last time when he was basically thrown out of the White House.
And thank you very much for your efforts, personal efforts to stop killings and stop this war. Thank you.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. And how about the photos of the several world leaders sitting around the Oval Office with President Trump behind the desk? I mean, are those awesome photos or what? And did we shake them down? You know, the leaders, did we pat them down? Did we use the wand, make sure they weren't planting a bug or a little mini camera somewhere in the Oval Office? We start with Rob Schmitt.
If the meeting between Putin and Zelensky goes well, the three of them with Trump there, we'll meet after that. So this moved really fast today. And of course, it all comes on the heels of what we saw Friday with the Alaska summit with Putin and Trump. And a big update tonight is Zelensky's second White House meeting went much smoother than the first, which is the big story, right? The leader of Ukraine arrived at the White House this afternoon for the first time since the February disaster that we all remember when Trump and J.D. Vance shredded him in front of all those cameras. This time, Zelensky wore a suit. It was all black. Kind of looked like a rock star or something like that, but at least he had a suit on. Clearly, he took the cue after a conservative reporter asked him last time why he just refused to dress up to go to the White House.
President Zelensky, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks good on
I
you.
said the one that attacked you last time. See, now I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelensky.
In the same suit. You see, I changed, you are not.
Maybe yours is much better.
So that's a look at kind of the vibe of what it looked like this afternoon. If you missed it, and then they went behind closed doors for several hours. It just wrapped at around 6 o'clock this evening. And beyond his attire, Zelensky clearly showed more respect this time at the White House, no longer attempting to lecture the Trump White House on how they're handling this, while also demanding that the Trump White House continue to spend billions of dollars to prop up his country in what is an unwinnable war for Ukraine without the assistance of the West. Let's just give you a flashback to just how ugly this thing was in late February. Take a look.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are not strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to...
Come once.
Remember how ugly that was? They're talking about trying to get diplomacy here, and Zelensky basically telling them there's no way to have diplomacy with Russia. We just have to fight this war endlessly, forever. There's no way to cut a deal. And he got it handed to him for that. This time it was quite a bit different as Trump, Zelensky, and several EU leaders began to negotiate some kind of a land swap deal dealing with all that land to the east of Ukraine, in eastern Ukraine, that would somehow appease both Russia and also Ukraine. Take a listen.
We've had a very successful day thus far. Important discussions as we work to end the killing and stop the war in Ukraine. We're all working for the same goal.
We had very good conversation with President Trump.
Very good.
And it really was the best one. Maybe the best one will be in the future. But it was really good.
I think if we play this well, we could end this. And we have to end it.
Now we are here to work together with you on a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. Stop the killing.
It's a very good day, the one we are in, to absolutely support your efforts towards peace.
So Russia wants part of the Donbass. Ukraine doesn't want to give it up. There's going to be some way to coordinate this to create a deal that satisfies both parties, and Russia's going to keep the island to the south, right there on the sea, according to the president. And all of this comes after Friday's Alaska summit with Vladimir Putin, of course. And that incredible, I thought the best video of the whole thing was the flyover, the stealth bomber flyover right over Putin's head, which, let's be honest, that's a pretty serious flex to fly the same bomber that wiped out Iran's nuclear program. Just say, hey, this is what we got. But that summit, of course, was widely mocked by the American media, what we saw on Friday. Even the Murdoch-owned Wall Street Journal, which stated Trump rolled out the red carpet for Putin. He got little in return. Saying President Trump welcomed his Russian counterpart to Alaska with the former showman's signature extravagance, a red carpet, a military flyover, and a ride in the presidential limousine. But Trump headed back to Washington with little to show for all the pageantry. They have no patience whatsoever. They'll sit there and they'll report on a war that goes on for 20 years, breathlessly. But when you try to end that war, if you don't get it done in the first 10 minutes, you will be mocked. That's the media to wit.
That's Rob Schmitt, host of Rob Schmitt Tonight, and this is some of what others in the media were saying.
The United States government quite literally rolled out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin. The Russian leader's plane was escorted by American jets. Once on the ground, Putin was met with applause and a warm handshake from President Trump.
They're seeing this guy in the White House bending over backwards for autocrats, making our service members literally roll out the red carpet for a mass murderer.
American service members literally rolling out a red carpet. Trump applauded. He shook Putin's hand. He invited him into the presidential limo.
For more media distraction, reaction, this is Ed Henry.
President Trump just revealed moments ago that after he convened a large summit of 7 European leaders, he called Vladimir Putin on the phone and began arranging a one-on-one between the Russian president and Ukrainian President Zelensky, meaning we are edging closer to the possibility of a peace deal. In fact, Zelensky just moments ago told reporters any talk of territory swaps is for him and Putin to decide in person. A big shift from just hours ago when he was saying no swaps at all. Now he's saying we'll talk as if it's on the table. So the president's success got me wondering, why does the mainstream media constantly get fooled by this president's ability to win against all odds? I started thinking back when I was covering then President George W. Bush, who liked to say he was misunderestimated. He had a little trouble with words and sentences and stuff. My favorite was the time he told us reporters during a speech in Nashville that there was an old saying in Tennessee or Texas, probably Tennessee too, he said. He couldn't even get the location right, but here's what he said.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Man, it was fun covering him. The point is, don't you see, it's like the media. They keep getting fooled again and again because they don't want this president to succeed. More importantly, maybe they don't want America to succeed. Yet he keeps on winning. You see, whether there is an actual peace deal this week or not, the president started the day by welcoming in Zelensky to the White House, then spent the entire rest of the day rolling up his sleeves, doing the hard work to try and get peace. Joe Biden never did that. Look at this incredible photo, the very picture of diplomacy that all the elites told us Donald Trump couldn't do. All the European leaders convened by, yes, your favorite president, as he likes to declare on Truth Social. Think back to the 2020 campaign when the mainstream media lectured us, lied to us, said over and over, Biden's this amazing diplomat. In fact, I remember covering him for years as the Senate Foreign Relations Committee chairman. Gave a lot of speeches, didn't get a whole lot done. But the fake news tried to sell all of us on how he knew so much more about the world than Donald Trump. Yet Joe let Putin roll into Ukraine. Nothing to stop him. Then later called Putin a war criminal. Not exactly a good way to get Vladimir to the table, or to get his Ukrainian counterpart to the peace table either. Yet it was this president who, after the fancy photo op, actually sat everyone down to dig in, do the work. Remember Kamala lecturing us about the work? This president actually today did the work to move us closer to a peace deal, something neither Joe nor Kamala ever did or thought about. Full day of diplomacy. And you know what else Joe never did? He never had an open line of communication with Putin. But Trump does. And whether the left likes it or not, Vladimir Putin is the president of Russia. And if we don't sit down, at least have a conversation, how can you expect to achieve peace? This is Diplomacy 101. Don't need to be the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee or a striped pants career diplomat to know that. And you wonder why we end up in forever wars. The elites don't want peace. They thrive and profit on conflict. Then enter the legacy media, their cover. Sometimes you wonder, whose side are they on?
Critics of President Trump will say the pomp and circumstance, the red carpet, the warm handshake, that President Trump simply lost that Putin gained there just by being on the world stage and walking down a red carpet with the president. Your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, critics of President Trump are always going to find something to criticize. You don't even pay attention to it anymore. But I will tell you this, Putin is already on the world stage. He's already on the world stage. The guy's conducting a full-scale war in Ukraine. He's already on the world stage. He has the world's largest tactical nuclear arsenal in the world.
Secretary of State is right. He's the president. The media just can't celebrate any victory, any little progress made under President Trump, especially when it comes to Putin. They're obsessed with Russia, Russia, Russia. You're supposed to speak truth to power in the media. Ask the hard questions, of course, challenge narratives. But as the history has proven, they haven't done that. In fact, they do the opposite. Instead, they're propagandists for the left.
Donald Trump cannot perform on the world stage because he simply does not have the intellect to match up with these world leaders. He's not Barack Obama. He's not Hillary Clinton. He's not even George Bush when it comes to being able to maneuver in these environments. And so what you saw was Vladimir Putin come and get what he wanted. I mean, the winner of this is Vladimir Putin. I don't know why we're trying to hide the ball. What happened.
Bush reference, won't get fooled again. Barack Obama, yeah, smooth talker. No intellectual giant. Take away the teleprompter, started to crumble. Hillary Clinton, ruthless, sure, but that's about it. She was the one, remember, who hit the reset button on Russia relations as Secretary of State. Didn't exactly work out. That guy, Bakari Sellers on CNN, can't see the truth through his hatred for Donald Trump.
And has solved 6 or 7 conflicts this year. I think we ought to give him some latitude to operate.
Which 6 or 7?
I'm sorry, are you not watching the
Which
news?
6 or 7?
Well, we just did Azerbaijan, we did Rwanda, we did Israel, Iran.
Israel, Iran, what? What peace deal did I miss?
End of the 12-day war.
I mean, so you 6 or 7. I mean,
Are you
that's
living on Earth too?
I mean, no, but Rwanda, Azerbaijan, Rwanda, what? What are we talking about? No. Let me say this.
We did see, Scott, to your point, after naming something after Donald Trump, we saw Azerbaijan, Armenia sit down. That was a remarkable moment.
The Armenian thing was like last week. Keep up, Bakari. He insults this president's intellect while at the same time he's completely ignorant of everything the president accomplished last week, the week before. They just can't see through their Trump derangement syndrome. They can't see the progress.
Ed Henry is the host of The Briefing, 6 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax 2, N2, which is available on multiple streaming services as well as in the Newsmax app and on Newsmax Plus, which you should sign up for if you haven't already signed up. Check it out at newsmaxtv.com. Newsmaxtv.com. You can even get a free trial to get started. While all of this was happening at the White House, the entire world watching, even as President Trump spoke with Vladimir Putin late yesterday about ending the war, Putin and Russia were still launching attacks inside Ukraine. Remember what I said yesterday. He doesn't care about ending the war. He doesn't care about how many people, even his own people, get killed. He doesn't care about Melania's letter about saving the children or anything else. Sure, if he can get the land that he wants, or some of it, maybe he'll end the war then, but otherwise he doesn't really care. He's an absolutely ruthless, former KGB, heartless dictator scumbag. That's what he is. Yesterday, I said the fact that he was launching strikes over the weekend after meeting with Trump showed that he didn't care. But launching strikes yesterday, while all of that was going on, he clearly is giving a big middle finger to the entire world. And after yesterday's meeting at the White House, Zelensky showed signs for the first time that maybe he would consider giving up some land or some sort of a land swap. And I'd love to know what people in Ukraine are saying today. Meanwhile, President Trump is taking a breather this morning. There is a White House press briefing this afternoon. You can see that live on Newsmax and on N2. Then the president has a bill signing ceremony, which is closed to the press, although I'm sure we'll hear from President Trump somewhere at some point in the day. Meanwhile, the president's approval rating is up since his meeting with Putin. According to Insider Advantage poll, 54% of voters said they approve of the job the president is doing, while 44% disapprove. In July, Trump had a 50% approval rating, with 48% disapproving in the same poll. The Insider Advantage poll. And what about the federal crackdown on crime in the nation's capital? This is Tiana Lowe on last night's edition of The Right Squad, which is broadcast from the Newsmax Washington, D.C. studios.
FBI Director Kash Patel today highlighting the Bureau's Capitol cleanup, reporting 29 arrests for charges including DUI, drug offenses, assault, destruction of property, and more. Patel says overall federal partners, there were 69 arrests last night, bringing the arrests to 380 total since Trump's cleanup operation started last week. The D.C. Police Union also releasing crime stats since federal law enforcement became involved. Robbery is down 46%, carjacking down 83%, car theft down 21%, violent crime overall down 22%, and all crime down 8%. President Trump today touting the successful crackdown on crime in the nation's capital.
We went from the most unsafe place anywhere to a place that now friends are calling me up, Democrats are calling me up, and they're saying, sir, I want to thank you. My wife and I went out to dinner last night for the first time in 4 years, and Washington, D.C. is safe, and you did that in 4 days. The press says, he's a dictator, he's trying to take over. No, all I want is security for our people. But people that haven't gone out to dinner in Washington, D.C. in 2 years are going out to dinner. And the restaurants the last 2 days were busier than they've been in a long time.
Chris, taking in the metro, I have noticed the difference on the metro. But you, as one of our resident denizens of D.C. proper, how's it been?
Well, honestly, it is noticeable. And it's pretty much everywhere you go. You're driving through the city. You're going to stop somewhere for lunch or to shop or for dinner. Again, the solution that the Democrats came up with long ago for homelessness is to recognize that these people are mentally ill or addicted to drugs and to throw them out on the street to fend for themselves, to scratch and scrounge, borrow and steal and beg every day to get enough to eat, then find some place to go to the bathroom, then find some place to sleep tonight. And eventually they die and we go get their bodies. And President Trump has decided maybe they need treatment for drug addiction or for alcoholism. Maybe they need to actually have shelter and be taken off the sidewalks of the street. And these tent cities, the Bidenvilles that grew up all over the city, down by the Kennedy Center and along the river and Georgetown and by the State Department, a huge one. And we're turning into an impoverished city in India, in the empire. And President Trump, bam, and the Park Police cleaned it up like that. And the crime stats, obviously great news. But you've got Democrats out there fighting against them. There was a woman that ran for city council in D.C. last year, was out on the streets over the weekend with a bullhorn, screaming at and cursing at police officers while they were arresting a drug dealer who I think is also an illegal alien. And they had a bag full of his drugs and individual packets and rolled up packets of cash. Yeah. And this Democrat woman is out there with a bullhorn screaming at the police to stop enforcing the law. They want more crime.
We also saw, by the way, there was a fat woman on the metro yelling at the cops, asking them something like, how could you do such a thing? And he said, have you considered eating a salad? I mean, this is just the latest instance of the Trump administration showing you can just do things, and Democrats led by the Lizard King himself, Chuck Schumer, saying, no, you can't do things because they do love crime. And I talked about Oklahoma City's Republican mayor, David Holt. My friends from Oklahoma were like, yo, he's so much worse than you think. This is a Republican opposing Trump and defending Muriel Bowser, which is very weird. The decline in crime here is important, whether or not you live in D.C., because this shows that decline is a choice. And every city, not every city, but basically every city in America run by Democrats has chosen decline. And Trump is telling people in these cities, you don't have to do this. It doesn't have to be this way.
That's Spectator reporter and volunteer firefighter Matt Foldy with Chris Plante and the Right Squad. Great conversations, weeknights at 10 o'clock Eastern. Newsmax crime reporter Jason Mattera had a very interesting report on Wake Up America concerning political crime in New York. Imagine that.
Good morning, Mark and Charlotte. Yeah, so Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is accusing Tish James of ignoring warnings that a multinational bank was evading U.S. sanctions and in order to funnel money into the Iranian regime's pocket. She sent a letter to Pam Bondi claiming that China has used Standard Chartered Bank, a UK-based financial institution with a licensed branch in New York, to buy sanctioned Iranian oil, and alleges the payments were concealed from required disclosures under an active deferred prosecution agreement. Stefanik says Standard Chartered is a cash courier for terrorists, claiming the bank has facilitated at least $9.6 billion to bad actors over the years. And she says Letitia James was briefed on those alleged terror-linked transactions last year, then approved the bank's annual license anyway. Stefanik is urging Bondi to assign the case to New Jersey's U.S. attorney, citing a whistleblower claims that the bank used servers in Newark to process the payments. Stefanik warns a federal case tied to the bank will expire August 19th, that's tomorrow, saying that if authorities don't step in, the cash could keep flowing to America's adversaries. She's also questioning whether James coordinated with the Biden administration to brush off the alleged payments, and is urging Bondi to investigate what she calls James's, quote, inaction. This isn't the first time the bank's been in Washington's crosshairs. Standard Chartered Bank has already paid hundreds of millions of dollars over past violations related to Syria, Sudan, Cuba, and other countries on the U.S. sanctions list. So, Mark, Charlotte, we reached out to the Justice Department to get comment from them, and they didn't want to give us anything at this point, and it wasn't even clear that they had received Stefanik's letter just yet. As for Standard Chartered Bank, they're flat out denying all the allegations and saying they comply with U.S. sanctions law. Back to you.
Sure, they say they do.
Newsmax crime reporter Jason Mattera. More potential legal problems for New York Attorney General Tish James. New York is, of course, the same city that let China open their own police station. You remember that? To allegedly provide services for citizens of Chinatown with things like passport renewals. It was eventually shut down, though, after being accused of monitoring and harassing Chinese nationals in the United States, among other things. Another big surprise. In other news, 2 of the 3 Utah police officers that were shot late Sunday night died of their injuries. This is Detective Crystal Beck.
Upon arrival, they immediately began taking fire. They requested additional units and then stopped answering their radio.
This happened in a small town about 70 miles north of Salt Lake City, Utah. The 3rd officer and his canine partner were both injured, but will both be okay. And I want to send my deepest condolences to our friend and colleague Alan Dershowitz and his entire family. Attorney Dershowitz posted on his X account. If you follow him on X, then you may have heard the news, but he posted yesterday that his son Elon had passed away at the age of 64 on Sunday. On Wall Street, stocks started the day mixed. The Dow was up over 100 points, the Nasdaq off about 50. Earnings from Home Depot this morning came in slightly short of Wall Street estimates, both on a per-share basis and revenue basis, but the company did still post revenue of $45.2 billion. Last week, President Trump floated the possibility of the government taking a stake in U.S. chip maker Intel. I told you about that. Now there are reports from Yahoo Finance and others that Japanese investment company SoftBank, which has already committed to investing like $500 billion, I think it was, in the United States, SoftBank now says it will invest $2 billion in Intel. And investors are focused on the Fed's annual meeting in Jackson Hole, Wyoming this week and what Chairman Powell will say on Friday. All right, be sure to keep up with all of today's news and any breaking developments throughout the day on Newsmax, N2, and at Newsmax.com. Make sure you are signed up for Newsmax Plus so you are getting all of our fantastic hosts and expert analysis. The news starts each and every morning at 6 Eastern with Alex Kramer on Wake Up America Early Edition, followed by Wake Up America, National Report, Newsline at noon, straight through Rob Schmitt Tonight, Finnerty at 8, Greg Kelly, The Right Squad at 10 p.m. Eastern, and much, much more. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Pay attention and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.